Welcome back to Salt of the Earth. My name is Roxy Canales, and I am so excited to welcome you back to another special Christmas episode. Now, if you were here with me last year, then you'll remember the Wonder of Emmanuel video that I made. Now, if you weren't with me last year, then I would encourage you to go check that out. It's a fun video for the holiday season that reminds you of the amazing reality of God with us. Now, I want this video to be a quick video so that it's easy for you to watch during this busy holiday season. So, with that being said, let's dive right into it. So, we're going to be in Isaiah 9 6 through 7. Yes, I know. Now, if you will join me, I'm going to be reading from the NIV today, and we're just going to read Isaiah 9 6 through 7. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders. And he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the greatness of his government and peace there will be no end. He will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing and upholding it with justice and righteousness from that time on and forever. The zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this. So, the aspect that I really want to focus today is in verse 6, where it mentions that this coming Messiah, this coming child, will be the Prince of Peace. Maybe you're like me this year. The holiday season has come upon you so quickly. You've been so busy, and you've been having a hard time finding time to spend with God like you should be. And obviously, as a busier time, that is to be expected. That is relatively normal. But at the same time, it's so important to not get so caught up in even doing the things for the Lord, like being generous, giving gifts, caring for people, being kind hearted, caring for the needy. Those are not bad things, and you should do them. However, it is so important this holiday season to not get caught up in that fact of doing those things instead of spending time with the Lord or neglecting that time with the Lord. So the Lord is our Prince of Peace. He is the giver of peace in busy times and in times where maybe it's not so busy. So maybe you're also like me this year and you've been really struggling with anxiety, depression, maybe some OCD issues, you name it. Maybe you've been really struggling with that this year, and that's been a really hard time, a thorn in the flesh, a point of contention, and you've been finding it hard to find peace, and it's even hard to believe that the Lord grants peace because you feel none of it. And if that's you, then I am so sorry because the Christian life is not designed to be that way. It shows here that with Jesus' coming, he's the Prince of Peace. The Prince of Peace arrived on the earth. He's the Prince of Peace. Think about that for a moment. Just sit and think about it. He is the Prince of Peace. He came to grant peace to the world, to give us peace. Jesus' birth paved the way for so many things. It is one of the most miraculous events in all of human history. Jesus' birth. God reincarnated in human flesh. God made as a man. 100% God and 100% man. That is amazing. And that God that came is the Prince of Peace. So Jesus' birth came. Jesus' birth set in motion events, and eventually it led to the cross. And Jesus' birth led to the final conquering of fear and death. That's what Jesus' birth led to. Jesus' birth paved the way for fear and death to be conquered for all of eternity. If you're struggling with anxiety, if you're struggling with depression, if you're struggling with OCD or eating disorders or any other mental health disorder, please remember that because of Jesus's birth, you don't have to stay in that. You don't have to be trapped in that any longer because Jesus died for you, and that was brought about through his birth so that he could empathize with us, so that he could know our struggles, so that he could feel our feelings and get down in the dirt with us and be there. And he still calls himself Prince of Peace. He still calls himself the one that gives us peace. And he feels what we feel, knows what it's like to be tempted to not trust God or to struggle with anxiety. He knows what it's like, and he still calls himself Prince of Peace because he didn't come to just let us soak in our anxiety and our stressors and in our seemingly inconquerable fear. That's not what Jesus came for. He came to set us free from that. He came to set us free and allow us to have a relationship with him. And his birth is a time to remember that we are not stuck in our fear. We're not stuck in our depression. We're not stuck in our anxiety. We're not stuck in our OCD. That is not what we're made for. We're made for so much more than that. And that's a reminder. I just have to keep telling myself that because I struggle to remember that sometimes. But that's the beauty of Christmas. Yes, of course. You should remember that at all times of the year. And being a Christian is not just for December 25th, obviously. However, it is a special time. Christmas is a special time for us to sit back and remember the truth that Jesus' birth paved the way for the conquering of death and fear, for the conquering of anxiety, for the conquering of OCD, for the conquering of eating disorders, or whatever mental health disorder you may find yourself struggling with. Jesus' birth conquered that, meaning that we do not have to stay bound in that any longer. Our Prince of Peace has come. Our Prince of Peace came. He arrived as a baby in the most humble fashion imaginable. Just how you and I arrive into the world. He came humbly. He is a king, the king of heaven, the Prince of Peace, and yet he came humbly to set us free from our sin and to set us free from the yoke and burden of fear. Jesus said over and over again to his disciples, do not fear. Why did he say that? Because God is with them and God is the Prince of Peace. He came to grant peace to the world through his death and his resurrection. The Christian life is not one of just carefree living or one that is just void of struggle. No, many times Christians struggle more than unbelievers. It's hard to think about, hard to wrap our minds about, but it's true. And just because you struggle doesn't mean that God is not with you, and it doesn't mean that God is not the Prince of Peace. He is the Prince of Peace. That's why he says his peace, his God's peace surpasses all understanding. So whatever you may find yourself in, whatever you may find yourself struggling with, he is the Prince of Peace. And he can grant his peace to you, the peace that passes all understanding. And that's the truth. So please, this Christmas season, please remember, think about, ponder, meditate on Isaiah 9, 6 through 7. It's packed with so much prophecy, and I love those verses because it helps remind me of why we celebrate Christmas, why we do what we do, why we're so thankful for this season. And again, just it's a way to praise Jesus. Jesus is our Prince of Peace. So please do not forget that. Allow him this holiday season to grant you peace. Allow him. I feel like someone needs to hear that. Allow him to grant you peace. It's okay to have peace. So please allow the Prince of Peace to give you his good and beautiful gift, which is the peace of God. So, as always, I pray that you have drawn closer to Jesus through this video, and I would encourage you all now to stay salty.